All right, so I am back with the webpage we've been working on here, and now I want to start to um, work on the CSS with regard to how this website is going to look on a mobile device. And this is really important because most websites nowadays are going to be viewed on phones much more often than they are on desktop or laptop computers. So I'll start by taking a look at a tool that we have in most browsers. So I'm in Firefox, but Chrome has this as well. It's just disabled on district issued computers. So that's why I'm using Firefox. And I'm going to go to Inspect Element. And there's an option down here. We looked at some of the stuff, but I'm going to go to this one that says Responsive Design Mode. And what it does is it allows me to take a look at my website as though I were viewing it on different mobile devices. So I'll just do this as though I'm working on an iPhone 10 right here. And this is roughly what my site is going to look like on an iPhone 10. And right away we have a problem, and that is the text is way too small. So let's think about why that might occur. I specified, like, for example, my paragraph to be an 18 pixel font, which roughly means that the vertical height given to different characters is 18 pixels. Not exactly that, and that kind of has to do with, font designers have a little discretion there, but roughly a line of text occupies 18 pixels of height on the monitor. And on my monitor here, all right, I have an HD monitor. This is probably the most common one now. And it is 1920 by 1080 pixels. And the monitor I'm working on is probably 20, 21 inches diagonal as well. And so, you could figure out from that how big the pixels actually are. But when I go look at my phone, like, for example, I have a Pixel 3 XL. The actual number of pixels is 1440 by 2960, and that is way more. My phone has way more pixels than are on this big monitor that I'm looking at. And since we're using the iPhone 10, let's take a look at that as well, right? Even the iPhone 10 is, bigger, right? So this time the smaller number is the width because I'm holding it in portrait mode, but you can see if you multiply these together that you're going to get a much bigger number than that. So the iPhone has, since there's many more pictures on a small screen, they must be a lot on a smaller screen. The pixels are smaller as well. And so what happens is when you specify the font to be 18 pixels high on a desktop monitor, 18 pixels high on a phone, it's just too tiny, right? So we need to fix that problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a line. I just Googled meta viewport tag, and I'll click the first link, and I'm going to copy down and grab this first line. And it goes in the HTML, all right? And I'm going to put it in the head. Right, and let me make this a little bit bigger so it's on one line. So pull this up. So what happens with this meta viewport tag is that the resolution of my iPhone 10 might be 1125 by 2436. All right, but what I want it also has a viewport built in, and this is just the iPhone is able to tell browsers, hey, render the content as though the screen were only 375 by 812. And if you do the math here, you'll see that this number is just a third of this number, and this number is just a third of this number. And I've got the dimensions here for some other phones as well, and there's usually you can just multiply by, divide by some constant, and you'll get the other number. And it varies based on the manufacturer. All right, so. And when I say I want my web page to be rendered as 375 by 812, what I mean is, since this is a third of this, if I specify an 18-point font, I'm fine if the iPhone just multiplies it by 3 and, makes the web page take up 54 pixels of height on the screen. So what we do, so that's what this meta viewport tag does. It tells the browser to use the device width, which is the viewport width, rather than the actual screen resolution. So let's refresh this. And all right, so now you can see that the font size is reasonable. And I have a little bit, let me zoom in a little bit here, and I have a different problem now. So now that I'm viewing it on the phone and the font size is reasonable, right? My picture, which is, I can't remember, maybe 700 or so pixels wide, and the viewport is 375, so my picture no longer fits on the screen. All right, so I have one more thing we can do for that. I'm in my CSS now, and I've got a section for the image tag, and I'm going to add a max width of 100%. Save that and refresh. And now, on a phone, everything fits. If I turn my phone, let me make this bigger now. If I turn the phone, right, the picture fits. And I'll get out of phone mode to show you what happens here as I resize the monitor. Right, so here's the web page viewed big. Let me get rid of that. And as I start to shrink the web page, right, the text keeps wrapping. And then if I get smaller, right, the picture will just stay, right? So I never have to scroll sideways. So anyway, those are just two things, right? One is anytime you make a site, add this meta viewport tag into the head of the document, and that will tell the browser how to scale the page so it fits on the device nicely. And then adding a max width of 100% to your images is a nice way to make sure that people viewing your site don't have to scroll sideways. All right, so those are just two quick tips for dealing with mobile devices.